Okay, let's get started. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for this presentation. This is the 2021 reassessment project update, originally scheduled to be the 2020 reassessment project update, but due to COVID, the town board and other municipalities who were going through the process last year opted to delay the project for a year. So here we are in February of 2021, and I'm going to explain to you tonight what we did before last year and what we've done within the past year during COVID to update the values. And then we'll talk about the notices that you're going to get in the mail in another couple weeks, and what you can do about challenging your assessment if you believe there is, if you believe it's too high. And we'll go through all that process and the formal steps that you can take after that and the dates that apply to it. So we'll get started now. So, the property tax obviously is administered locally by local taxing jurisdictions. And all the revenues go to support your local services, okay, and none go to the federal or state governments. The property tax is based on what is called ad valorem tax, add value. That's what New York State operates on. Whether it's fair or not, we're not here to argue that. Okay, a lot of people say that the ad valorem tax is not fair. Unfortunately, that decision is made with a much higher pay grade than me as a contractor for the town of Cheektowaga. That decision is made in Albany, and it's been like that for 200 years, I believe. So I don't think that's going to be changing anytime soon. But all of the property owners pay tax. The secret is that you only want to pay your fair share of the tax. So we have two terms that come into play, budget and levy. They're two totally different terms, and some people use them interchangeably, and they shouldn't. They are vastly different. Okay, the taxing jurisdictions again are responsible for developing the budget. That's the total revenues that are going to be needed to supply all the services that the taxing jurisdiction, whether it be the town, the school district, or the county, that they provide. And then you use revenue from all other sources from that, then the property tax, that's how you get, it's determined. Okay, so the revenues that are arrived at, and when I talk about revenues, I'm talking about all the revenues that the town has to use. So you're looking at departmental revenue, okay, whether it be from their parks and recreation fees or the building department fees that are generated. Then you have state aid that you get, the towns receive, whether it be in the terms of CHIPS highway funds or what is called AIM funding, aid and incentives to municipalities. Those go in, and you end up with a number that has to be subtracted from the total budget number. So the town first sets up a figure that they're going to need to operate the town. From that number, you subtract the revenues, all the revenues that they can generate, and you come down to a line that has to be raised through taxation. That line that has to be raised through taxation is called the tax levy. And the tax levy, not the budget, the tax levy is what is encumbered by the 2% tax cap. So that's what can't go up 2% or the lesser of CPI is the levy, not the budget. Okay, so there are two additional factors besides the levy that determine your property taxes. One of them obviously is your assessment, and we're going to talk about that. The other is the tax rate, and you get the tax rate by dividing the tax levy by the total taxable assessed value. That's not the total assessed value, it's the total taxable assessed value. That means what's not included? Your not-for-profits, your hospitals, your churches, your schools. Those all have assessed values, but they're not taxable. So that doesn't go into the determination of the tax rate. Okay, you get the tax levy, and it's cut off here. The tax levy divided by the total taxable value, equals a tax rate. So in this instance, it is $10 million divided by $500 million gives you a $20 tax rate. And I wish it was shrunk here a little bit, but I apologize for that. Okay, so your assessments and taxes, okay, again, as I alluded to a little earlier, the assessments play an integral part of your tax calculation. The tax levy is the controlling factor, however, in the amount of your tax bill. Okay, most of you, I would assume, haven't seen your your assessed value rise in the last 4 years, I'm going to say. Okay, so if you go back to 2016, your assessment hasn't changed. But what has changed? Your taxes. Your taxes have gone up. So why are your taxes going up when your assessment stays the same? It's because the levy is increased. Okay, and that's a very important factor. So pay attention from this day forward. Pay attention when your school districts, your county legislators, and your town board pay attention every year, not so much to the budget. You should pay attention to the budget, but not so much to the budget. Pay attention to what the tax levy is doing, because that's going to give you a better idea of what your taxes are going to be doing. Okay, so what's the job of an assessor? Assessor has many different jobs. It's just not about putting fair market values on your property. Okay, in the old days, that was, when I say the old days, 40, 50 years ago, that was their primary function. Times have changed, okay? They have to keep the inventory on all properties accurate. They are really one of the main contact sources for the public to the town government, okay? They have a lot of interaction with the town government. And they help the taxpayers understand what's going on with their assessments. A large portion of their job has been exemptions, okay? Star exemptions, senior citizens exemptions, veterans exemptions, okay? It's a huge portion of their jobs. And they have to get this on the assessment roll and use the computerized software, to implement what it is. Okay, so again, fair assessments. In New York State, RPTL, Real Property Tax Law 305. That is the law that says that all property in New York State has to be assessed at a uniform percentage of value. Doesn't tell you what percentage of value, just a uniform percentage of value. You can be at 100% or you can be at 4%. The town of Alma has not had a reassessment project done, I'm going to guess, in 70 years, maybe more. Their equalization rate is down to 4%, a little under 4%. So because of that, if you go back to the slide that everybody couldn't see, if you do that, their tax rate is like $300, $400 a thousand, where yours is probably $30, $25 a thousand. So it's a misnomer to believe that the tax rates lowering that, doing a reassessment project is going to raise your taxes, because what's also going to happen with a reassessment project, and it's going to happen this year in Cheektowaga, assessments are going up, but your tax rate is going to be going down. And we're going to be showing you that in a little bit. So what is market value? Market value, we've all heard this probably, it's the most probable price in a competitive and open market, with the key point being a willing and knowledgeable buyer and seller, and no duress. So foreclosure sales are not market value sales. Okay, some estate sales are not market value sales. Okay, you got to use what we call valid sales, and not every sale is a valid sale. And we've done, over the past few years, we've done analysis on all the sales that have occurred in the town of Cheektowaga, and we have determined what sales, along with the assessor's office, we've determined what sales are valid and what sales are not valid. And those are the valid sales are the ones that we have used to value your homes. Okay, if you look at your tax bill that you just received with a month ago or so, okay, you'll see that the municipality's percentage or equalization rate is right on the tax bill, and it tells you your subject market value. You would have noticed, if you looked at that the equalization rate is now 83%. This year's equalization rate is 83%. After the project, after the completion of it, which will be finalized actually on July 1st of this year, it'll be at 100%. And again, because of that, the tax rate will be going down. Okay. Another benefit you get with the equalization project, when you're at 100%, you get the full STAR exemption, not a percentage. You get the full veterans exemption, very importantly. And most importantly, your assessed value is your market value. So when you look at your tax bill next year in January, or your school tax bill in September of this year, you're going to see what the town says your property is at 100%. You don't have to apply the percentage. Okay, so the project is all about equity, fair and equitable assessments. And you'll hear me say that a few times tonight. It's all about being fair. Like I said earlier, everybody has to pay taxes. We live in New York State, okay, and we live in the United States of America for that matter, okay. And property taxes is what most areas, how they generate their revenue to provide the services that they do. So everybody has to pay taxes. What you want to be sure is that you only pay your fair share of the tax. You don't want to pay too much tax. If you're paying too little tax, that means someone else is subsidizing your tax bill. So the town's job is to bring everybody, kind of try and get them to everybody paying their fair share, because there are people right now in the town who are paying too much in tax, meaning they're overassessed, and there are people too little in tax. That means they're not assessed high enough. And this is the best way that the town has to make sure that everybody is paying their fair share of taxes. So again, equity is a goal. And again, New York State says you have to assess property at a uniform percentage of value. And again, it ensures that the tax burden is just being distributed amongst all the taxpayers equally and fairly. Because if one property or a neighborhood is underassessed in the town, that means that neighborhood or property is paying too little in taxes, and that means the other property owners are subsidizing that taxpayers or neighborhood's share of the tax bill. And that's just not fair or equitable to the rest of the town. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, okay, of what can happen. And these homes are not in Cheektowaga, okay, but Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones, back in 2015, the last time that this municipality went through a reassessment project, they were both valued, market value had $100,000, and correctly, they were both assessed at $100,000. So, you know, that's certainly fair and equitable assessments in place at this time. So when you fast forward now to 2021, you have different market conditions have occurred over the past 6 years. As we all know, the real estate market, or hopefully we know, the real estate market in Western New York, including Cheektowaga, has seen increases in property values. Okay, so now we have Mrs. Smith, her market value has gone up to $300,000. Mrs. Jones has gone up quite a bit, but it's at $150,000, half the value of Mrs. Smith's property, yet they're both assessed for $100,000. Okay, so there's inequity in the role here. Why? Because Mrs. Smith is way under assessed on her market value, and Mrs. Jones is too, but not as much. And so what happens is that Mrs. Jones ends up subsidizing Mrs. Smith's taxes. And that's what we want to avoid. That's what you want to avoid when you look at your assessment and you look at your every year. Okay, this is an ongoing thing. This just isn't a year that you go through a reassessment project. You should be asking yourself this question every year when you get your taxes, or when you see the school tax come to before for a vote. You want to pay attention to it. Okay, so three things can happen when you have with this reassessment project. The first thing that can happen, and this is going to happen in the town, you're going to see your assessment increase. You're going to see it go up, but your tax bill is going to decrease. And a lot of people just don't believe me when I say that, but it's going to happen a lot here in the town. Okay, and I'm going to show you. It's a simple mathematical equation why it's going to happen, and it has to do again with the total taxable value of the town and the tax levy that I talked about earlier. Okay, so on the left, you have your assessment at $100,000, and the $50 million, the total taxable value of the town. These are not the correct numbers for Cheektowaga, just used for example purposes. The tax levy is $1.5 million. So how do you get the tax rate? Okay, you take the tax levy, $1,500,000, and you divide that into the total taxable value of the town, divided by 1,000, and you get a rate of like 0.03, but you got to multiply that by 1,000 because everything is done per 1,000. So you take the 1.5 million divided into 50, I believe it's $50,000. You end up with $30 per 1,000. So I'm going to just do that quick math right here to make sure that I'm right. $50 million divided by 1,000 equals $50,000. I did the math right in my head. Not too bad. Okay, so your taxable then, you take the $30 per 1,000 and then you multiply that for your assessment per 1,000. So that $100,000 becomes 100. So you take 100 by $30 a 1,000 and you come up with $3,000. On the right, your assessment went up 5%. Okay, that's good. That's a good thing because that's your largest asset. Well, at least it is in my case. My home is my largest asset that I have for my family. The total taxable value of the town went up 8%. So that now the levy is $54 million. The tax levy, the town board kept the levy the same. That means they kept the spending flat. Okay, so now you take the $1,500,000 divided by $54,000 and you come up with a tax rate which is lower now. Because the taxable value went up and the levy stayed the same. So you have a lower tax rate times 105 and you get new taxes of $2,917. This is going to happen in the town of Cheektowaga. Okay, the next example can happen is that your assessment could increase and your tax bill stays the same. And this is going to happen in the town. Okay, on the left, those numbers stay the same. On the right, your assessment went up the same 5% to $105,000. The total value or taxable value of the town went up the same 8%, the $54 million. But the tax levy this time went up 2.86%. Oh, wait, Joe, you just told us earlier that the tax levy could only go up 2%. Now, there's a catch there, as there always is when you deal with New York State. Okay, the tax levy goes up 2%, or the CPI increase. That gives you, it can't go over 2% then, it's the lesser of those. However, if the town board, the school board, the county legislature, if they stay under the tax cap in the prior year, they can carry over that to the following year. For 1 year, they get to do that. So that's how you'll see some municipalities and school districts, their levy will go up 2.86, 3%, and that's because they were under it the prior year. So in this case, though, your tax rate, you take the $1.542 million into the $54,000, you get a tax rate of $28.57 times $105,000, or 105, I'm sorry, and you get $3,000, give or take a little bit, and so you see no increase. I'm going to go back to the previous slide. There's this, I'm going to tell you something right now that you should really pay close attention to. The number that you should pay attention to, there are two numbers you should pay attention to. How much your assessment went up. So, from, last year, full value, and how much the total taxable value of the town went up. Okay, so in this instance here, you saw there was an 8% increase in the taxable value of the town, and your assessment only went up 5%. If that happens when you get your notice in a couple weeks, go to the town website. I'm going to ask the town to put what the total taxable value of the town last year was versus this year. Okay, and if your assessment went up lower than your the total taxable value of the town, there's a high likelihood. Now, I'm not going to say it's 100%, but there's a high likelihood that your taxes are going to go down. Okay, so pay attention to those two figures. Not only how much your assessment went up, but how much the total taxable value of the town went up. That's a little shortcut of kind of getting through all the muddle. Okay, here's the third example. And this is what I call Armageddon, and this is not going to happen because we're at the end of the project now. I can tell, I know certain things now that I didn't know 6 months ago. This is not going to happen in the town, but I'll just show you what Armageddon is, and that's where your assessment goes down. That means your largest asset loses value, yet your tax bill still goes up. That's the worst of all worlds. Not going to happen here in the town of Cheektowaga for the reason being, I'm not going to go through the whole example. Your assessment went down to 5%, and the total taxable value of the town went down. Okay, I can assure you, guarantee you, 100%, the total taxable value of the town went up significantly. Okay, so this example is not going to happen in the town of Cheektowaga. I just showed it for demonstration purposes. So when you're not assessed at 100%, it gets to be confusion. It can be confusing to some people. Okay, in the Cheektowaga, right now, as I said earlier, the equalization rate is 83%. Okay, which means if your home is assessed at $83,000 today, your full market value is $100,000. Okay, if the town was not doing this reassessment project, the state has notified them already that the equalization rate for 2021 would be 73%, not 83. That means they're showing, and there's an inverse relationship between equalization rates and market value. So if your equalization rate is going down 10%, that means they're saying your property value is going up 10%. So they're saying from 2020 to 2021, your properties went up 10% in market value, which means, and that's based on the sales. We're basing your assessment on sales. The state does the same thing. The state comes out every year and they do what they call a survey of every municipality, all of them in New York State. And they analyze the sales, valid sales that they have selected, and they get a relationship between what the assessed value is and what it's sold for. And that's how, and that's a percentage. And so they're determining that homes now are selling for roughly 10% more than they were last year at this time. So that equalization rate applies to the entire town, which makes it very inequitable, quite frankly, not fair. And that's one of the reasons why the town board has elected to go through with the reassessment project, because that 83% equalization rate figure is applied to every property in the town, no matter where you are located. Okay, whether you're in South Cheektowaga or over on the east side, close to the west side, close to the city, that 83% equalization rate gets applied to every property. Okay, and as we all know, or hopefully we know, different property types appreciate at different value, at different percentages. Some areas are going up in value, some areas are staying the same, some areas are, maybe going down slightly. But that 83% gets applied to every property, no matter what neighborhood you're in. So again, doing an a reassessment project gets rid of those problems. So after the 2021 project in July, the town of Cheektowaga will be at 100%, taking into account all those different neighborhoods that have been looked at. And it's easier to understand your assessed value versus market value. So nothing that is going to take place that we have done or what the assessor has done, okay, is going to change the total value that has to be raised. Okay, the assessor and I cannot raise or lower the tax levy. That is only done by the elected officials at the taxing jurisdiction level. So the assessor has nothing to do with the tax levy. They only determine what your share of the pie is going to be. Okay, that pie, that's like diced up in different slices there. Okay, and that's what gets out of whack. Like in Elma, there are a lot of inequities in the roll in Elma because they haven't done a reassessment project in so long. And the assessor in Elma cannot raise the assessment based on the sale of the homes. I mean, you have a lot of upper end homes in Elma, and if a home sells for $350,000 and they're assessed for like $200,000 full value, the assessor legally cannot raise the assessment. That's against the law. It's called the welcome stranger law, and you can't assess one. You just can't base it on a sale. Reversely, if someone pays $200,000 for that home in Elma or Cheektowaga for that matter, and they're assessed for $350,000, the homeowner can always come in every year and challenge if they're overassessed. But the municipality cannot raise the assessment if they're underassessed. So that favors the property owner in that instance, but it creates a lot of inequities in the roll because of that. So how do we keep them fair? You do it through frequent reassessments. And what is the reassessment? It's a systematic review of all the parcels that they stay at a uniform percentage of value. And why do we need to reassess? Because we're trying to remain fair and equitable. That's the bottom line. You're going to hear me say it again. Okay. So why are they needed? The market is constantly changing. We've seen increasing property values over the past, 7-8 years in Western New York in general. Okay. And sooner or later, that market is going to slow down a little bit. But right now, it's still increasing. That's going to continue, at least in the near future. Who knows what it's going to be a year from now, though. So that's another reason why you got to do frequent reassessments, though, because when the market slows down or goes down a little bit, you're gonna want to reassess some project to reflect a little slightly lower market value to your property. Okay, so I use this example, the 2008, like they call real estate crash, the market crash in 2008, where down south, out west, and most of the country, quite frankly, they had a real estate crash. A lot of properties ended what they call upside down on their mortgages, which means they owed more on their house than what it is worth. That's what happened in 2008. And some areas are just recovering from that now. Okay, we didn't experience that here in Western New York, in Cheektowaga, because for the last 40, 50 years, up until the last 7 or 8 years, real estate market was kind of slow and steady. It would go up 2, 3, in a good year, 4% a year. Okay, and it just was slow and steady over the 30, 40-year period. Well, so when the market crashed in 28, the property values are going up, and now they start coming down. We didn't have that big crash because our market values weren't going up in 2008, 2005, in the early 2000s. So we couldn't go down that much. We kind of stayed flat and steady in that 2008 market. But then when you got to 2011, 2012, 2013, the market values start going up in Western New York. So what is that telling us? That's telling us that sometime in the future, there's going to be a little dip in the market here. Okay, and I don't know how much of a dip it's going to be. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but we will be impacted the next time that happens in all likelihood. So not all properties, as I alluded to a little earlier, change at the same rate. Okay, you have more desirable properties, but as values change, so does your share of the tax levy. That means if your values are going up or you're going down, you're still only paying your fair share, and that's what you want to concentrate on. So how is your market value determined? Okay, myself, my firm, we do not create the market value. Okay, you people who are on this call and everybody else who bought homes over the past 4 years, you created the market with the transactions that were occurring. It's the buyers and sellers who create the market, not the assessor, not my firm. Okay, what we do is we analyze and monitor those transactions and adjust things to arrive at a market value using a computerized system. And we've done that utilizing our staff, which is utilized with all licensed appraisers. And we used 5 comparable sales to match your property up. So every residential property in the town of Cheektowaga has what we call a valuation document. That valuation document has 5 sales on it, comparing it to your property. You can go on the town website tonight after this Zoom call. You can go on there and you can look on the assessor's page, and you can go to the type in your address, and you can find out what the town has in the inventory, what they have for your property, how many square feet it has, how many bedrooms it has, what they're saying, how your garage, okay? You want to make sure that information is accurate, because that information that's on there is the information that was used to value your homes. And if it's in error, you want to let my firm know, and I'm going to tell you how to do that in a little short while. You want to let us know about that, okay? There's going to be, I'm going to get to this point now a little bit ahead of myself, but those 5 comparable sales, you are entitled to see those 5 comparable sales. There's going to be an email address at the end of this presentation. And I'm going to give it to you right now, but I'm going to, in that email address is just CHK, Charlie Henry Kevin, CHK at ENPM, Edward Nancy Peter Marco, at ENPM hyphen dash inc.com. All you have to do is send us an email to that address, say, type your address in the subject line and say, I would like the valuation document for my property. You can't do that until March 1st though. So don't do it today. I mean, well, you can do it, you just won't get it to March 1st. So I take that back. If you want to send a request in tonight, you can do that, but you won't receive the information until, that first week of March. Okay, so we encourage you to do that, because we're not making the values that we arrived at. We're not just picked out of a hat. A lot of time, energy, and effort went into that. So what drives the market value? The same thing that drove the market value 5,000 years ago. Okay, location, location, location. Okay, some locations are more desirable. Obviously, some people in certain areas, if you live on Lake Erie, you have lake frontage, very desirable. Some people may want to live in the city, or others may want to live out in the country, have acreage, and they want a more rural setting. Obviously, those settings are more desirable than living next to an industrial plant. Okay, so that's what it means by location, location, location. There are several other factors that drive the market value. Okay, economic influences, recessions. Okay, have an economic influence that you and I really can't control. Okay. We're in a pandemic right now, obviously. I mean, unfortunately, we all know that all too well. Okay, it's changed our lives dramatically over the past 11 months. Okay, you would think that being in a pandemic would have a negative impact on the value of real estate, residential real estate. It hasn't, one bit. Hasn't slowed down one bit. As I alluded to earlier, the equalization rate would have dropped 10%, meaning your property, your value of your homes have gone up 10% over the past year, which is it's a good thing, because it's your largest asset. But I can't explain to you why entirely. I can't explain to you why the pandemic hasn't had a negative impact on market value. I'm going to get to one reason why I believe it hasn't in about 30 seconds. So, but I can't explain entirely why it hasn't had more of an impact. Okay, your house style, that has an impact on market value. Okay, one-story ranch-style dwellings are still the most desirable home in Western New York in the town of Cheektowaga. Baby boomers are downsizing, and that means there's more demand for the ranch-style home. And that drives up sale prices. The number of bathrooms you have, obviously has an impact. The land area has an impact. The next point, the fourth point on this list, is the one I want to concentrate on, because this is a reason why I believe that market value has gone up even during a pandemic, and that's interest rates. Interest rates have come down, and when you have lower interest rates, you have more people being able to afford homes. Think back to the late 70s, the Jimmy Carter days, which he always, everybody talks about this, who's old enough. Your interest rates on your mortgages back then were 16, 18%. Okay, so your mortgage payment, it was a lot higher back then because you were paying so much in interest. And that impacted the number of buyers in the marketplace. It reduced it. Now you have the opposite coming in. Now you can get interest rates on homes of 3% or less. So what is that doing? That's bringing in a whole slew of buyers into the marketplace, while at the same time, there's not the inventory of homes to sell. So you have economics 101 taking place here. You have you have too many buyers, not enough sellers, and because of that, you have bidding wars on homes. It's normal in this over the last 2 years, 3 years, to see homes going for $30,000, $40,000, $60,000 over asking price. I know of a home in another community that it's a Cape Cod style home worth $150,000. They had 32 offers on the site. 32. They got $40,000 over their asking price. It's insane. It's insane, and that's the market that we're in now. And what happens in that case? People will have asked me, and somebody even asked it when we did this session in the fall. They asked, how are we accounting for people who get in bidding wars? You go back to those 5 sales. Remember, I told you every home is going to have a valuation document that has 5 sales on it. Okay, if you bought your home in the past 4 years, it's going to include that sale. I would think, in all likelihood, the subject sale. Okay, and if you got in a bidding war last year and you paid $20,000, $30,000 over your asking price, in normal times, and I put that in quotes, in normal times, my firm would say the sale price is the market value. Okay, we've taken a step back from that position this year on this project and other projects we're working on. We have taken the position that the subject sale may not be the best indicator of market value. It's certainly an indicator, and it will be utilized in those 5 sales, but there's 4 other sales that we are also taking into consideration. And in a lot of instances, you're going to see this, in a lot of instances, you're going to see people who paid, I'm just going to throw out a number. They paid $170,000 for their home, and the market value on their new assessment might be $155,000. Okay, and that takes into account the other 4 sales. Is it gospel? Is it in every case? No, but it happened in more cases than not. The vast majority, I think, you'll see a reduction. Not everybody though. So we've taken that into account, the bidding war that we're seeing on properties. Okay. So changes in property values. One thing is given different types of properties in different locations change at a different pace. As I get back to neighborhoods, neighborhoods change at different percentages. Not every neighborhood goes up or down at the same rate. And that's the problem with the equalization rate, because the equalization rate gets applied universally over the entire town. Whether if your neighborhood is going down in value, doesn't matter. You still get that same equalization rate. Okay, so over a period of time, if you don't do a reassessment project, you get more inequity in the rolls. Okay, so loss of assessment equity means some people are paying more than their fair share of taxes and some people are paying less, and that's what we want to avoid. We just want to make sure that people are paying their fair share of taxes. So the bottom line, the $64,000 question you ask yourself when you get your notice in a couple weeks, is the market value estimate that you're going to see on that document, is it a reasonable reputation of what you can expect to receive for your property if it was up for sale? That's the, that if you look at it and you say, yeah, that's pretty close, you can rip it up and you don't have to do anything else. Okay. If you don't, if you think it's overassessed, we're going to get into that process right now. So these are important dates for the assessment schedule for this year. We're doing the public meeting. That's what we're on right now. Okay. The impact notices are going to go out around the end of February, March 1st, at the latest, March 26th, I think is actually, I'm sorry, February 26th is actually the day that we're looking to get them out in the mail. Informal hearings will be in March and April. When you get the notice in the mail, you're going to get a couple of inserts in there. It's going to explain to you, I feel like Ricky Ricardo here. It's going to explain to you what you can do. It's going to give you some phone numbers to call, schedule a hearing. It's going to, if you have questions, there's going to be a phone number to call my office. We'll be glad to answer questions. You're going to have that email address that you can also refer to. And it's going to give you some dates to set up the informal hearings. The informal hearings this year are going to be done over the phone only. Due to COVID, like everything else, we got to change the way we're doing things. We can't do face-to-face. I'd much rather do face-to-face. I like the interaction with the residents. I like meeting all of you, but we got to do it by phone this year. And you're going to call in to schedule an appointment for an informal hearing. They're going to ask you for your name, your address, and your phone number, because my firm is going to be calling you for the informal hearing. You're not going to call us. We're going to call on you, and then you'll have 5 to 10 minutes tops to explain your case. And that's why after you get your notice, if you have information that you want to provide to us, and by information that you should provide to us, I'm talking about you have a crack in your basement wall that's really bad, and you got an estimate to repair at $15,000 or something like that. You want to make us aware of it. We want you to email that information to us at the email address that I gave you, or you can mail it into the assessor's office, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well too. So you're going to go to the informal hearings. We encourage everyone, if you believe that you are overassessed, first thing you should do probably is call and ask questions, and we can educate you maybe a little bit more about the 5. You should ask for the 5 sales. You can look at them and say, yeah, my neighbor house, 8 doors away, it's a pretty similar house. It's all right. Look in the paper every Sunday, or go online every Sunday, and they have all the real estate transactions by town. Go in and see what the homes are selling for in your neighborhood. The property values are going up. I mean, would you pay for your house what some people would pay? Probably not. I know what my house has been appraised at, and I would never pay for my house what it's been appraised at. I can't believe that it's worth that much, but that's what the market is going. That's what it's telling you. So you're going to get those results by May 1st, and then the tentative roll gets filed on May 1st. If you're not happy with the result of the informal hearing, you can go to Grievance Day. And that's this year, that's on Wednesday, May 26th. After May 1st, you got to contact the assessor's office, and there'll be instructions for you in your what you're going to get in the mail in a couple weeks. And you would reach out to the assessor's office, and they'll have you fill out the form. It's a 4-page form to go to Grievance Day. It's a state form, not a town form. It's a state form, and you fill that out, and you go before the Board of Assessment Review, which is made up of a member of the peers in your town. My firm is out of the equation at that point. We have not. After we finish with the informal hearings, we're really we take a back seat and we're not involved. And then after the Grievance Day, if you get you're going to get your result prior to July 1st. If you're happy with that, you don't have to do anything. If you're not happy with that, you would go to the next process, which is the small claims assessment review. And I'll get into that a little bit as well. Okay, we're winding down here. So what do you do when you have questions and concerns regarding your assessor's value? Most of the information is at the assessor's office. Obviously, in these times, we're not encouraging you to go to the public. The town's website, library, the assessor's office, check with them regarding the assessments and sales. All the sales books, they'll be online as well. You'll be able to check your neighbor's assessments and compare your neighbor's assessments to you. All those tools are going to be online at the library, at the assessor's office. Okay, so we encourage you to take advantage of that. And again, once you get your notice, if you want to schedule an informal hearing, this is the number to call between March 1st and March 16th. That's 559-1952. That number will be on the mailer that you're going to get in 2 weeks as well. So wait till March 1st, though, to call that number. It won't work prior. Okay, so what do you want to do if you're challenging your assessment? You want to look for sales of similar style homes in your neighborhood. Okay, there's something like 20 different neighborhoods in Cheektowaga. You can find out in the books. They'll be your street will be in an alphabetical listing, and it'll tell you what street your neighborhood is in. And then you go to the sales books and you get the sales of, let's say, ranch style homes in neighborhood 127. And and you get sale. Only use your neighborhood. I'm not saying I'm not saying you can't go outside your neighborhood, but stay in your neighborhood is your best way to be successful. Okay. Again, if your home is sold in the last 4 years, I told you that's going to influence the value. It's going to be one of the 5 sales. It's going to be one of the 5 sales. It's not going to be the do-all, end-all, but it's going to be one of the 5 being considered. You want to make sure, as I said earlier, that your inventory matches what the assessor has. Okay, make sure that's accurate. If your information is not accurate, you want to perhaps have somebody come out and do a physical inspection of your home, and we'd be more than willing to do that. Call the question line, email, and we'll set up a time to come through your home. So here's the sample disclosure notice, and here's where it gets a little tricky. It's hard to see there, so I am going to share a screen, hopefully, that will hopefully make it a little bit larger. Where's my share screen? I got to bring up another document here, and here it is. Hopefully this is a little bigger. It might not be, but hopefully it is. Yeah, is that a little bigger? Hopefully you can see that a little better. This is the notice that you're going to get in 2 weeks. So it's going to look exactly like 99% of it will look exactly like this, except I see it says 2020 assessment notification. It'll be 2021 assessment notification, but it'll have your parcel number, exemptions. That right-hand corner is very important for you to look at. You want to make sure that all your exemptions are listed. It'll say residential exemption, star exemption, senior exemption, veterans exemption if you have it. If you are getting exemptions now, and in that right-hand corner, it's not showing that going forward, you're not going to get it. You want to call the assessor's office. You want to call the assessor's office at 686-3440, 686-3440. It'll say homestead, because homestead are residential dwellings. It'll give you the ownership of the property and where it's being mailed to. And then now we're going to get into, and hopefully, Michael, if you can just jump in here. Are you able to see what I'm doing here? Is everybody seeing that?
Yep, we can see it.
All right, so I'm scrolling down so they see it. Okay, so this is the screen you're going to see. The first box there, it's going to tell you your last year's assessment and your new assessment and your level of assessment. That's the equalization rate. It won't say equalization rate. It'll say level of assessment. In this example, 83% this year. Next year, it's going to 100%. And then it'll give you the market value. So that $183,000 assessment last year with an 83% equalization rate, $183,200 divided by 0.83 gives you a market value of $220,000. In 2020, you're at 100%. So they put you at $230,000 for assessed value, and your market value is $231,000. It went up $11,000. Okay, so now below that, in that underlined area, which nobody either sees or wants to pay attention to, that underlined area, this is a hypothetical estimate. Okay, we're going to show you at approximately what your taxes were last year, and we're going to show you approximately what your taxes will be in the coming year, with the caveat being that the budgets haven't been set for the 2021-2022 school year, and they certainly haven't been set for the 2022 town taxes or county taxes. Those numbers won't be arrived at until later this year. The school budget gets voted on in May, and the town board will vote on the budget in late October or early November. So what we have to do is we take the assessment, the $230,000, this year's assessment that you're going to get in the mail, and we apply that to last year's budget, because that's the most recent figure that we can use. Because we don't know what the tax levy is going to be. So we use the most recent year that we have. And this is an actual example. So you see, and make note though, you have the county tax, the town tax, and you have the school tax. Notice the school taxable assessment is $30,000 less for each year. That's because you're getting the star exemption. Okay, that's taken off that. We assume everybody, most people, 99% of the people will get it. So that's why you're paying less. The dollar per amount is your assessment is lower for your school tax. And in this example, the assessment went up $11,000, yet their taxes are going to be going down approximately $242. What's not included in this hypothetical example, because every property is different, there'd be no way to arrive at it. What is not included in this example is special district taxes, because we don't know what fire district, well, we do, but we can't calculate that. It would take a year just to get everybody's done, and by the time it was done, it'd be obsolete. So your fire district taxes, your water district taxes, maybe different library taxes, all those special district taxes are not included. So it's just your general town and highway tax that is included for the tax number. And then on the bottom, it'll tell you about Grievance Day. This year it is May 26th on a Wednesday. And again, with the information you're going to get in addition to this, it'll tell you what you have to do to challenge the assessment if that's what you want to do. So now I got to get out of this, and I got to get back to sharing the screen, and I got to pull up the PowerPoint again, and that's there. Okay, I got to be honest with you. Okay, last year at this time, like many other people, I didn't know who ever heard of Zoom. I never heard of Zoom. I mean, it's become a way of life now. Most of my meetings are done by Zoom. And I think going forward, we're still going to have, obviously, when we get out of this, we're going to have more, obviously, face-to-face interaction and that. But Zoom meetings are going to be, are not going away totally. So what you're going to do after the informal, okay? You go to the bar, as I said. If you're not satisfied with the informal, you schedule an appointment at the bar after May 1st, and you go on May 26th. There is that 4-page form that you need to fill out. It doesn't cost you anything, okay? Once you get the result from that, you're either going to say, okay, I went to the informal review, and Eminger and ENPM, they lowered my assessment from $150,000 to $135,000. But I still think the property is only worth, I still think the property is worth $125,000. I still think it's got to be lowered some more. So you go to the bar, you go to the Board of Assessment Review. They hear your case. It's a more formal process. You got to raise your hand, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. But you basically answer the same questions that you're going to answer at the informal. At the informal hearing, so now you go to bar and you get the result from that. And the bar, let's say, says, no, we think your $135,000 is fair. So you're still not happy. You still have one more avenue, and this is the Small Claims Assessment Review that I mentioned a few minutes ago, a SCAR hearing. This is, there's a filing fee for this, $35. It's set by the state. The town doesn't get any money from this. You can do this on your own. It's for 1, 2, and 3 family dwellings. It's not for commercial properties. It's not for vacant land. So you go to the SCAR hearing, there'll be a hearing officer. Most typically, it's an attorney, and you'll be in one room. Maybe they'll do a Zoom this year. I don't know what they'll be doing come June, May and June. What they'll be doing in June, not likely what they'll be doing. You'll be in one room, you'll be, or on one call, the hearing officer will be there, you'll be there representing your property, and the town will also have a representative of the town representing their position. At this point, I would encourage people to get an appraisal, because you got to get an unbiased opinion of really what your property is worth. And appraisal is probably going to cost you, I shouldn't say this, because everybody charges a little bit differently. I'm going to guess it's going to cost you to get a licensed appraiser to do your property. It's going to cost you $300-400. You can have a realtor. You can get a realtor to do what, they do a market analysis of your property. They may do it for free. I'm certain that they're going to charge you less than an appraiser would. Okay, so that may be a more cost-effective way to do it. And you make your argument before the hearing officer. And then if you're a commercial property, you have to do it through court. That's a more expensive proposition. You have to have an attorney for a commercial property. But the good news is on the SCAR hearings is that if you are successful, if you end up being successful, more likely than not, the hearing officer will say to refund your $35. So they don't have to do it, but the vast majority of the time they will do that. Remember, in every instance, whether it be the informal hearing, the Board of Assessment Review, or the SCAR hearing, the burden of proof is on you. That's why you want to get the 5 sales that were, request those 5 sales, especially if you're going to take it the distance. You want to get those 5 sales. The assessment is always assumed to be correct. Okay, and you got to get sales that prove otherwise. Okay. The assessor's job, as I alluded to earlier, they have no interest in undervaluing or overvaluing your home. They don't make more money for the town or for themselves if they overvalue or undervalue your home. The objective is just produce equitable assessments so everybody's paying a fair share of the property tax burden. There's some myths here. The tax levy grows at a faster rate. That's not true because the tax levy is controlled by the New York State tax cap. So that's a myth. Okay. When you are going through a reassessment project, you're going to see your tax rate is going to go down, as I alluded to earlier. Most definitely, the tax rate in the town of Cheektowaga is going down this year as opposed to last year. Okay. Increased assessments are causing increased tax bills. That's not true. And I alluded to that a little earlier again. I said your assessments for the most part over the past 3-4 years have stayed the same, but your taxes have gone up. Why? Because the levy went up. Pay attention to the levy. More attention to the levy. Okay. In a non-reval year, if the municipality needs more money, they will raise the levy, causing a higher tax rate. Okay, that's true. Okay, the levy is going to go up every year. The levy, the reassessment project has nothing to do with the levy. Okay, the levy is what they need to provide the services. Okay, assessors raise values in response to pressure. No, that's not true. The town can only raise, unless they override the tax cap, they can only raise it 2% a year, and that's been in effect since 2012. So over the last 9 years or so, the tax cap has been in effect. That's helped the taxpayer. It's helped the taxpayer. Okay. Values change in response to economic changes? Absolutely. Absolutely. And tax rates should drop proportionally to the assessment increase, as I alluded to earlier. Absolutely. That's going to happen. The assessor sets the property taxes? No, the assessor doesn't set the property taxes. Only one group of people can do that. And that's the town board, the school board, and the county legislatures. Okay, not your assessor. Okay, the assessor is only responsible for placing the fair market value on your property. Okay, so just a few points here. Don't be fearful of the reassessment project. Okay, the sky isn't falling. Okay, we just want to make sure you're paying your fair share of tax. Okay, you're not going to get, go back here. There's a little outdated here. I thought I was going to be doing this presentation next week. Your notice is going to be coming in 2 weeks, not next week. So you want to look at that notice and just see if you think you could sell your property for that amount. Okay, and if you had a listing on your property show us the listing agreement that, if you listed it for 150 last year and we got 190 on it now, you want to make us aware of that. Okay. The assessor's office just wants to treat everybody fairly. Okay. Taxable status date. I haven't talked much about that. Taxable status date is March 1st every year. Okay. So March 1st every year, that means what's ever on your property come March 1st this year is what we valued your property. So if you're thinking about taking down an old garage on your site and you're going to rebuild new, okay, the new garage, okay, you want to make sure that garage, you got to get a permit for the demolition, but you want to make sure that garage is torn down by February 28th, because what's ever standing there on March 1st, you're going to be taxed, you're going to be valued at. If you tear the garage down on March 2nd or 3rd, you're out of luck. You got to tear it down between now and February 28th. The exemption filing deadline for all your exemptions, your veterans, your senior citizens, that's March 1st as well. The tentative roll, as I said, gets May 1st. Grievance day is on Wednesday, May 26th, and the final roll gets filed on July 1st. So this is the information I alluded to a little earlier. Earlier I gave you the number to call to schedule your appointment after March 1st. This number here is if you have questions. This number here you can call tomorrow. I may not be able to help you because I don't know what your assessment is, okay? But you can call, if you have questions, call that number. If you want your valuation document, you can email that, chk@empm-inc.com. You can email that tomorrow requesting your valuation document. Tell your neighbors to do that, please. This is going to be on the town website, this presentation. I would encourage everybody, if they want the valuation document, to let us know as soon as possible. You're not going to get it till early March, but we can start setting up things so you can get it as soon as possible after March 1st. Okay, so these are that's the number. I really appreciate, I'm Joe Eminger. I just realized I didn't introduce myself at the beginning of the meeting. I'm Joe Eminger. I'm the president of ENPM. And, we're in these trying times, we're doing the best we can to be as transparent as possible. We're going to give you all the information that we can as possible. And we appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to me ramble on here for a long time, longer than I expected. And about an hour. That's way too long. But I'll open it up for questions now, and then Michael Milks from the assessor's office will bring you in. So virtually raise your hand, and we will take your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them the best I can. Okay, so
Judy has a question.
I am gonna hold on a second. I am gonna get out of my shared screen for now, and okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Me, Joe? Judy?
Judy? Yeah. Hi.
Okay. I'm just wondering, will all properties in the town be reassessed or just certain neighborhoods?
No, every property in the town is being reassessed. My firm was charged with valuing all of the residential parcels. Another firm was charged with valuing the commercial parcels. So I can help you only on the residential parcels. And vacant land. Every property got reassessed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has a question? Anybody else have a question? I see there's a chat room here. Oh, okay. They just said okay. Okay. Anybody else have a question? I know I didn't answer all your questions, so don't be.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Joe. I had a question. If we want to compare similar properties on, for say, on my street, I have to look after March 1st. Is that correct? When all of the numbers will be updated?
Correct.
Okay.
There'll be books. There'll be books on the assessor's website that'll have an alphabetical listing by street of all. It'll tell you how many. It'll tell you the address, how many baths they have, how many bedrooms they have, the style of home, the neighborhood, and you can compare your street.
Okay, great. Because I just wanted to be sure that I'm looking at actual new numbers, and I just didn't know when assessors would have all that put in.
Yes, yes, it'll be up by March 1st.
March 1st. Okay.
I'm actually going to
Now
be,
remember,
I'm actually going to be submitting that information to update the website, the property search page of the assessor's homepage tomorrow.
Oh, okay, great. So anytime actually after tomorrow, Mike?
It takes them a couple days, so it won't be until like late next week. It's probably the
Okay, thank
26th
you.
or March 1st.
yeah,
Okay,
it'll be in the
great.
next week. Yeah.
All right,
So,
thank
you
you.
know, remember, when you look at these homes, these listings, or in the sales, okay, everybody says, you know, one of the arguments that people will make is the home 2 doors away from me is identical to mine, and it's assessed for $10,000 less. You know, why? I've been appraising now for 38 years, going on 39 years, and I've never seen 2 homes that are exactly alike. There's usually some nuances to them. Okay, there, whether it be a finished basement, one might have a finished basement. The square footage may be identical. I'm not saying the square footage isn't identical, but there's little nuances that add value that maybe some people, you know, won't recognize that. So they should be hopefully relatively close, but. You know, if somebody has a total remodel of their house, because we look through MLS, if somebody does a total remodel on their house and it's the same square footage as a house that has a 40-year-old kitchen and bathroom, well, they shouldn't be assessed the same, right? I mean, you want to be fair and equitable. And did we catch everything? Absolutely not. I'm going to guarantee you one thing right now: we did not get everybody's assessment correct. Okay, we did 28,000 parcels. We didn't get them all right. Okay, it's impossible to do that. That's why we go through the informal process. We want everyone to participate in the informal process. If you think you're unfairly being assessed, we want to hear from you. You know, email us. You know, we'll you know, we're more than happy to give the, you know, presentation. This is not appraising and assessment work is not an exact science. It's not like 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, in appraisal, 2 + 2 could be 6. Okay, it's not an exact science. And you know, I look at something, a buyer looks at something, a buyer's wife looks at something. They may think, you know, you might get 3 different values, from that. So we're just trying to use the sale and try and do analysis, you know, the best way we can, and get fair and equitable assessments for everybody.
Okay,
Thank you, Kathy.
thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
I do.
Yeah, I see you have a question. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Christina, by the way. I think, well, I don't envy you at all, because I think a lot of the people in Cheektowaga have a very bad taste in their mouth after, I think it was like 2017 reassessment. I know
My firm didn't do that.
Okay, but
I've done them in prior years, but not 2017.
I bought my house in 2012, and then I was reassessed in 2016, and I fought my assessment because I did not believe it was right, and it did get lowered. However, my taxes increased at almost $1,000 per year, and so I think that's the fight that you are up against now, sir. And last year, you know, the big to-dos on the news right before the pandemic hit, where everybody was going and pretty much yelling at you because this is what we've experienced. And so you telling us that it's going to decrease is kind of like, I don't know if we should believe this guy or not. So can you explain to me exactly why in 2016 it seemed to have such a bad effect on everyone? Because like
my firm did the assessment. Okay, just in full disclosure, okay, my firm worked on the reassessment projects from 2010 to 2015. March 1st of 2015, I think, was the last year that we sent the notices out. Then they went with another firm for 2016, 2017. and that. So all I can tell you if your assessment goes up a lot, most likely that means that you were probably underassessed in the prior year. So, another common argument that my firm's going to hear this year is going to be, my assessment went up $60,000. How could that be? Or my assessment went up 35%. How could that be? We can't help you with that question because your old assessment might have been wrong. You may have been one of those groups that were paying too little in tax because you were underassessed, okay, for a few years, okay? What we can help you with is your current assessment. The notice that you're gonna get in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks now, the notice that you're gonna get is something that we can talk about. I can't help you with what it was last year. That's old, we can't control that. Whether my firm was doing that the last time it was done or not, it's irrelevant. Only thing that we can help you with, what could you sell your house for today? Not what could you sell your house for last year, or what could you sell it for 18 months ago. It's what you could sell your house in 2021. That's a problem. So yeah, people, hey, it's taxes. I mean, it goes with the job here. I'm in my position. I'm happy to say that for the most part, the people in Cheektowaga are, they understand. This is a valuation project. This is not a taxation project. It's for your taxes. You go to the town board, you go to the school board, you go to the county legislature if you want to argue about your taxes. The assessor's office, my firm, are here to say this is what your property is worth. So everybody just pays their fair share. That's a key point there. This is a valuation project, not a taxation project. Come to us and argue the valuation. Don't come to me about you're paying too much in tax, because the assessor's office and my firm can't help you with that. Okay?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Good question. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate you not beating me up, and I appreciate your attention. I did talk a long time. I apologize for that. I do want everybody to know that when I answer questions, if you call me up or you email me, I answer the questions like I'm in your position. Because like I said in the presentation, we don't win or we don't get more money. We don't lose any more money by raising your assessment or lowering your assessment. Okay, we want you to be as informed as you can be, and I want to help you. There are some things that I may be able to help you with. If you get your notice and you say, okay, ENPM put $150,000 on it. I just had an appraisal done, and they said it's worth $170,000. Okay, by all means, don't call me up and say you want your assessment raised. Okay, don't do it. I mean, if you want to do it, we will get calls. I guarantee you, I'm going to get calls and emails from your fellow residents in Cheektowaga asking us to raise their assessment to that $170,000 figure, hypothetically. And why are they doing that? Because they are incorrect in their presumption that a higher assessment will get them more value for their home. They'll be able to sell it for more. So they're looking to sell their home in the next couple months maybe, and they want a higher assessment to justify the higher price. Unless your property is grossly overassessed or grossly underassessed, which it shouldn't happen in this case, because we're going to, in Elma, that's happening, but it won't happen here. Unless it's grossly overassessed or grossly underassessed, it won't have any impact on what you can sell your house. So if somebody tells you I got to get my assessment higher because I'm looking to sell my house, you can tell them after tonight, you can tell them that Joe said, don't do it. That it doesn't have to happen. And have them call me. Okay. All right, if nobody else has any questions, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation is going to be online. I encourage you to go online, the assessor site, look up all the information you can get. March 1st, you're going to get that notice. Call me with any questions. Be glad to talk to you. If you do call me, just make note that you were on the presentation, and it might get you a few bonus points. Okay. So thank you very much for your patience.